Boker Tov, today's Chag Sameach. Today's daf is daf Chaf Vav in Bava Metzias. We learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and Asun Matzev Ship. You're about 10 lines down on the page at the two dots. The Mishnah had said in the last line on the bottom of Chaf Hayomi Beis that if you're renting out, let's say, a hotel, and you rent it out to other people, if you find anything in there, you can keep it because whoever left it there. You don't know who to return it to. So whoever the person who lost it has no idea who would find it, and he's gone anyway. So there's no way to return it. So you could assume that he was miyayish and you can keep it. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Just find out who the last guy was. Says the Gemara. The Mishnah said, even if you find it in the hotel room, that's a very common thing. You ever go into a hotel room? You don't want to go back to that hotel if you find somebody's stuff in the closet. I've been in hotels like that. You find somebody's underwear in the closet or something like that. They didn't clean it out. So let's say you find somebody's stuff there, you can keep it. Why? So look at who the last guest of the hotel was. Milotan, did we not learn? Famous case. Moshe, so listen carefully. If you find money in front of the butchers, let's say Socher Behema in Eretz Yisrael, if you find money there, Lola Meiser, it's Meiser Sheni money. Why? Because what do? People have Meiser Sheni that they, fruits and vegetables, etc., grains that they from all around Yerushalayim, from all around Israel, and they bring it to the Shalosh Regalim. They bring it to Yerushalayim to spend the money there and buy animals. That's usually what they do. Usually bring a korban shlomim, which is like a free will offering. So most of the money. Let me put it this way, most of the meat eaten in Yerushalayim is Meiser Sheni, food that's Meiser Sheni. If they can't eat it all up during the Shalosh Regalim, Rashi says they leave the money in Yerushalayim for their friends and family, but most of the meat bought in Yerushalayim is from Meiser Sheni money. So if you find money in front of the butchers in Yerushalayim, you have to assume it's Meiser Sheni money. Okay, and treat it accordingly. Use it for carbonos or whatever. You have to eat it in Yerushalayim. But Harabayis, you don't bring your money up there normally, right? Also, it's a place that's not cleaned out normally, as Rashi says, because you're not supposed to take your money belt up there openly. People have change in their pockets, but and you're supposed to not go up with shoes, etc. So it's not cleaned out normally. So any money you find out there all year round is chulin, even at the time of Shalosh Regalim, because you go according to most of the year. Most of the year, people who drop money in Harabayis, they're not buying the meat there, so any money they have is chulin money. Ubi Yerushalayim, but let's say in the precinct, in the whole vicinity of Yerushalayim, B'shayim Asashana chulin, all year round, if you find money there, it's chulin. B'shas HaRegel, when a lot of people go to Regel, Hakol Meiser, you assume it's Meiser. Okay. So what's the difference? Why in Yerushalayim do we make this difference? Again, in front of butchers, it's always because that's the money that's most of the meat bought, and most of the meat eaten in Yerushalayim is from Meiser Sheni money. That's fine in front of the butchers. But in Yerushalayim, all year round, if you find money there, it's chulin. B'shas HaRegel, you have to assume it's Meiser. What's the reason why Yerushalayim, there's a difference between B'shas, the regalim, and other all year round? Because the markets in Yerushalayim are cleaned out every day. They got sweepers like they got here. They got these Arabs who clean up the streets and send sweeper. They're people who sweep it up. And therefore, what do you say? The earlier ones are gone. In other words, if you find money all year round, not in Shalosh Regalim, like right now, it's not Shalosh Regalim. You find money in Yerushalayim, you can assume it's chulin. It's just regular money. If you find it around Shalosh Regalim time, when the city is packed with guests who brought their Meiser Sheni money from Haifa and Tel Aviv, etc., then you have to assume it's Meiser Sheni. So what do you see? You see that they cleaned out. You assume that it's cleaned out. On Harabayis itself, it's not cleaned out. Harabayis isn't cleaned out. Number one, Rashi says because it's on a slope, so the dirt just runs away, and plus people don't go there with their shoes and they don't bring stuff to Harabayis. So therefore, they don't clean it out. So therefore, you have to assume that it's always chulin. You go busser most of the year, but in Yerushalayim where it's cleaned out every day, if it's Shalosh Regalim time, you can't assume that this is from before Shalosh Regalim. It probably just it's fresh. It's a fresh loss. So what do you see? The earlier ones are cleaned out, and these others, hachanami kamakama also v'hani debasranim. When you find stuff in a hotel room, you assume the last guy that was there cleaned his stuff out, right? And if he didn't, the guy after him took it. So why do you say if I find stuff in a hotel room, I can keep it? Why not? Why not just go down, check with the hotel manager, see who was the last person who stayed here, and give it to him? Amar Shlakesh, Mishum Bar Kapara, because it wasn't just one person. They had 3 people staying there. 3 people at the same time. I don't know if they were in the same room, but in the same, you found it in the hallway, you found it in the lobby, whatever. It wasn't like it was just an inn that has, it's a bed and breakfast. They can only have 1 couple at a time or 1 guest at a time. There were 3 Jews who stayed there at the same time. Therefore, the Girsa in the side is B'nai Adam. We're talking about Jews, L'Shosh Yisrael, right? And therefore, what's the problem? Why can you keep it? You don't know who to return it to. And as we'll see, the other people, whoever dropped it, figures, okay, well, the other guys didn't give it back to me. They probably stole it and kept it. Says the Gemara, the other day on Shabbos' Daf, which we actually learned at the end of Friday, Shimon Elazar said a big thing that was discussed in detail on Shabbos. Shimon Elazar said that if you find something, listen carefully, in a place where there's a multitude of people, and a multitude could even be 3 or more people, you can keep it, even if there was a siman. Said, right? Even if there was a siman on it, Rashi said on that page, you find it in the street, on the highway, any place where there's a lot of people, keep it. Why? Because a person's miyayish. He says, whoever's going to pick it up is not going to return it to me. A person normally leaves it in a public area, gives up on it. That's from Shimon Elazar. The Gemara had a discussion, is that only by Jews or even where there's Rav Goyim? So wait a minute. Over here you're saying that if you found something in a place where 3 people stayed in that hotel, and you don't know who dropped it, right? But you can keep it. Why do you keep it? That means even if there's a siman, he says you can keep it. Why? Shimon Elazar says that if you drop something where there's a multitude of people, you can keep it because the owner is definitely miyayish. Afilu b'Rav Yisrael even was mostly Jews. So it's a proof to we had this whole discussion: is Allah Shimon Elazar or not, or like the Rabbanan? And if it's like Shimon Elazar, it's only by Jews or only by Goyim, and we came out presumably that it's only by Goyim, but not by Jews. Elam Rav Menashe, so it would be a proof. It would be a proof that Rav Shimon Elazar, we paskin like Rav Shimon Elazar, because the Mishnah said that you can keep it. So it's mashma that we paskin like Rav Shimon Elazar, even where there's mostly Jews. Yeah. That's a public place. Yeah, it's a public place. That's considered a public place. Yeah. Take a look around. People won't be no. So again, when there's a public place, people are. Shimon Elazar sheep was, even if there's a siman, if there's multiple people, they give up because they figure nobody's going to return it to me. Pardon? It's not that definition. It's not a definition of it. It's whenever there's a public, and a public means 3 or more. Elam Rav Menashe, it doesn't go by the by the legal definition. Is it private? Is it public? It means 3 or more people.
They know where they left it.
Yeah, no, but you don't know who. No, the point is that when one of the 3 people dropped it, figures the other guys, there were 2 other people there, they didn't return it to me, so I'm not going to be able to get it, as we're going to explain in a minute. So we don't want to make a proof. We say, is that a proof from our Mishnah that the halacha is like Shimon Elazar, even where they're mostly Jews? You could keep it, because that's the Mishnah says you could keep it, and we don't want to go that far. He says, no. Rashi says maybe it's speaking where there were 3 goyim staying there, and then you found this item after 3 goyim stayed there together, and that's why you can keep it. And that's why you could keep it, because that's considered a multitude. Rashi says it doesn't even have to be 3, even if it's 1 guy. Even if it was 1 guy there, he could have given up. You don't have to worry he's miyayish or not. You found it, he left it, you could keep it. Tosfos says no. The second Tosfos says less than 3 is not considered a rove. Rove means a lot of people. It doesn't over here mean a majority of the people. It means a lot of people. Rashi, Tosfos says this differs from Rashi. Tosfos says it's got to be at least 3. So if there's 3 people there, even if it's a guy, he's going to be miyayish. And it doesn't make it even since yish is maybe you don't even need yish on his part. You're not mechuyev to return it to him necessarily, unless it's for kiddush Hashem. So that's one answer. The question is again, why in our Mishnah are you allowed to keep it? If you know there was only 1 person staying in the hotel the night before, and a pundik Rashi says is a place where people stay for a night or 2. It's like an inn, a motel. And there was only 1 person there the night before, so you know who took it. You know who it belongs to. But speaking, there were 3 people. Nachman Ravua, Afil Tomish Yisrael could be thinking there were 3 Jews there. Still, you can keep it. Why? My timer. Ahud the Nafel, the one who dropped it, she gives up. Neymar, listen. There were only these 2 people staying with me that day. One of them obviously picked it up. because when I went to, take all my belongings to pack up my suitcase, it was gone. So one of those two guys picked it. Amri Kamayu, I've told them, did you see my wallet or my pen? I lost my pen. Did you see it? I kept repeating it to them. Kamazimne, I told them several times, Lahaduli, to give it back to me if they took it. They didn't return it to me. Now they're going to give it back to me. He gave up. If they wanted to give it back to me, they would. I've already protested. I've said, hey, you two guys, we're eating here for breakfast every day. I lost my pen last night. Did you see it? Nobody wants to return it to me. They're not going to return it to me. The reason they didn't return it to me, but the Tyler makes like they want to steal it, even if it's Jews. So therefore, Rashi says, so Paskin like Rav Shimon Lazar. No. The Chipli grew up on Rav Shimon Lazar arguing with his taka, like Irving says, a lot of people. A lot of people. Again, it doesn't go by the definition of private or public legally, but if there's a lot of people there, so a person says, I dropped it now. I have a simon. I don't know who's going to, the person who found it doesn't know who to return it to. I don't know who to ask. So I'll wait for Yontif when people come together and he'll put up a sign, Hashavas Aveda. He doesn't know, but maybe I'll get it back. So he's not miyayish. That's where the Rabbanan are different. Rav Shimon says, if you lost something in a public area, even if you have a simon on it, probably the guy gave it up, was miyayish. We don't hold us like Shimon Lazar. Rabbanan say no. If there's a lot of people there, people find things. It has a simon on it. You found a wallet, you'll put up a sign. Shimon Lazar disagrees. But in this case, where there's only 3 people staying in the hotel, even if they're Jews, the person who dropped it told the other guys, did you see my wallet? Did you see my pen? They didn't return it to him, so he gives up. That's why you give up in this case, and that's what our mission is speaking about. If you rented it to somebody else, and it wasn't like thousands of people, but there was just a few other people there, 2 other people, and they didn't give it back to you, so you figure you gave up. You're not going to get it back. That's a pshat in our Mishnah. Rav Nachman Tamei. Rav Nachman says this is about the 3 people goes according to his own sport. Rav Nachman, if a person says, Raw Sella, you saw somebody, there were 2 guys walking, and you saw them drop a silver dollar. A Sella, let's call that, right? Silver dollar. Drop the silver dollar. You got to return it. Why do you have to return it? When we say money has no simon on it, right? Now you know it came from one of those 2 guys. One of them dropped it. You saw them walking along. Why do you have to return? My time. The one who dropped it, he's not going to give up. I was only walking with one other guy. I just dropped it. The other guy, right? If he doesn't want to give it, if it's not here on the floor, it must be that he took it. Now, kitna lay, I'm going to accuse him and I'll make him swear because I'm sure he took it. There was only one other person with me. And I'm going to make him swear. If I'll tell him, Atu the Shakti, you're the one who took it. So therefore, so what? He's not miyayish. Because I said, when there's 2 people there and a drop from one of them, whoever dropped it knows that if it's not here, you must have picked it up. Now we'll see if you dropped it in a sandbox, that's different, but I dropped it right here. If it's just me and you must have taken it. I'm going to make you swear. And Rashi says in the second line, and therefore, if you pick it up and keep it, you picked it up for 4 years, you wasn't miyayish. What's the whole issue we've been discussing these couple of weeks? Did he give up yet? When you're in a hotel room with 3 people in a hotel area, and you dropped it, and you keep repeating it to them, so you don't know who took it. You don't know who took it. You're only a shema. You're not sure, as we'll see in a second. When there's 3 people, it's different. When there's 2 people, and one of them dropped it, the one who dropped it is not miyash because he figures the other guy took it. The other guy. Now you come along and you saw them from far away. You saw them drop it. He's not the guy who dropped it. Is not miyash. Therefore, you're stealing it if you pick it up and keep it. Bishlosha. You're going to let's see the Gemara says Bishlosha in a chayv lachzer. You don't have to give it back. Why? My time. Hold enough from you. The guy who dropped it, Bari miyash, he gives up. Meimer Amar, he'll say, listen, Michti Treyavada, there were 2 other guys with me. Inakit Lahai, if I accuse one of them, and I'm not sure which one, right? If I accuse one of them, he'll say, Lo Shakalsi, Inakit Lahai. If I tell the other one, maybe you took it, Lo Shakalsi, each guy. In other words, nobody's returning it to him. I can't for sure accuse either one of them because I don't know which one took it. I know one of those 2 took it, but I don't know which one. So therefore, he's miyayish, and therefore you, as a 4th person who saw them, you could pick it up because he was miyayish. But in the case where there's only 2 people, the guy who dropped it is not miyayish. Does that answer what you're going to ask? Because you're only a shema. You can't make him swear. You can only swear. Remember, swearing is denying to do anything, but you can only swear in certain cases in Torah, and even with the Rabbanan, it's only when you're a bari. I know for sure you took it. So when it's 2 guys, I know it was you. It's just me and you. It had to be you. But if there's 3 guys, you can't make him swear because you're not sure. Therefore, he gives up.
$10,000 see, there's three people there.
Right.
You're going to be the eye.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe it's not $10,000. $10,000, you'll
saying.
hire the mafia and you'll
right?
fight them all till you get it. Right. Then he's not Miyayish. You're right. You have to look at common sense in the certain circumstances. Right. Exactly. But if you drop the dollar or 50 cents or something like that, you're going to give up, and therefore you can take it. Amar Rava. Hi, Amit. Listen, even though Rava says that you can keep it when it kept from 1 to 3, it's only in a limited case. This that Rav Nachman says that with 3 people, you don't have to return it. That's only if it was a very small amount of money. And how small? That there wasn't even a shava pruta for each one of the 3. Why? But let's say it was a shava pruta, it was a seller that had several shava prutas in there. Right? You have to return the chayv l'achzor my time. You don't know for sure that they gave up. Maybe these 3 guys are partners. Partners all trust each other, right? So my time, but Lamash is not going to be miyayish. Rashi says they believe one another, and he's not choshet. And when he checks and he doesn't find, I dropped the money, he probably picked it up. And he didn't mention anything; he just wants to play around with me. But the point is, if you pick it up now, when did you pick it up? Here's the key to this whole thing. We didn't even discuss it in detail yet. When you picked it up, he wasn't miyayish yet. Then you're stealing. You can't pick up. He wasn't miyayish. That's the point. So, all right. So what are we saying? So if there's because if there's a shava pruta for each one, then they could be partners in it. Each one is a shava pruta in it. If there's no shava pruta for each one, right? Let's say the imshel aval ein Rashi goes on to say, but aval ki ein bo shalosh prutas. If there's no shava prutas, then monavshach. If there's shutfin, then there's not a Shavas Aveda because neither one has a Shava Pruta, so there's no keep to return anything if there's a Shava Pruta, less than a Shava Pruta. So if there should been Ein Kam Shum Shava Pruta, Vim Shalechem Mehem, Oshos, if it's from 1 or 2, they gave up. Amru Chaveinu, he's a Ganav. So it only works in this whole idea that you can keep it. It's only if there's less than a Shava Pruta for each of the 3. Nobody there has a Shava Pruta in this whole thing. There's less than a Shava Pruta for each one. So therefore, it's possible that if you say if there's a shava pruta for each one, it could be that they're shutfin. So therefore, if it's more than 3 prutas that you're picking up, maybe they're shutfin, and you can't, and they're not miyayish. If there's less than a shava pruta, then you could keep it because even if they're shutfin, then nobody has a shava pruta, so there's nothing to return, right? And if it belonged to 1 or 2 of them, then also. Then he's miyayish because he said, okay, listen, maybe it belonged to 1 of them. Okay, but if it belonged to 1 of them, we have the whole issue. They're going to give up because the other guys didn't return it to him. So if it's less than the whole idea that you can return it, that you can keep it if there's 3 people, is only if it's less than a shava. It's less than a shava pruta for each one. Some say the other way. The less value shava pruta, even if it's only worth 2 prutas, you have to return it. My time, maybe the 2, it's worth 2 shava prutas. Maybe one of them is mochel his share to the other guy, right? And therefore, you got to return it to him because he doesn't suspect him at all, and therefore there's really only like 2 people effectively, right? Because there's like one is a shut for the other, so there's 2 people. So and therefore, you have to give it back because. He knows. Rashi says, it came to you. In other words, even if they're shutfin and there's only two prutas there, he's mochel the other guy. And therefore it's possible that when you picked it up, it was before Yish. Rashi keeps pointing. When you pick it up before Yish, we pass it like a bayah. That's Yish Shalom Midas. What does that mean? You picked it up before the other guy was miyayish. Yeah, maybe he'll be miyayish later on, but maybe he didn't even bother checking so much because he's not choshev one another. So therefore, you picked it up before Yish, and that's awesome. Rava, what is this whole thing about? If you saw a dollar that was dropped before Yish, before Yish took place, like in one of these cases where it fell out of one of 2 guys, or even if it was 3 guys, but it's possible that 2 of them were shutfin, right? 2 of them were shutfin. And it was let's say it was only 1 prutas or whatever it was. He could work out a case where he was definitely miyayish. But he says if you picked up something before Yish and with the intention to steal it, you're over on all three averos. What are they? Mishum lo sigzol, you stole it. Mishum hashev teshivim, you didn't return it. Mishum lo suchal asalim, you cannot abstain from, turn away from, from returning it. So you're over on three things. You took it before Yish. Even though you returned it after Yish, you returned it. Matonu diavle, you're simply giving him a gift now. Bisur david of it. You're over in the Isra. Tosfos points out that what do you mean? Even if you steal something, that's a lava nitikli asay. So Tosfos points out in a chanami, the Isra of lo sigzo and the Isra of hashev teshivim, right? Those things go away because you did return it at the end of the day. And Xela also said lava nitik, let's say it could be corrected by returning it. But lo suchalas alein, you're over on that. Because you didn't turn away, you did turn away because you kept it for yourself. So Matani Ava Isur, you still did the Isur, you're over on the Isur of Lo Suchal Asalim, you're over on that Isur, and you get Malchus for that. Pardon? No. You took it before years. You should have. No, you did it before years. Okay. So if you're a shogeg, so you wouldn't be punished, you wouldn't get Malchus. Malchus is only with Edom and Asra. So you're over b'shogeg, you're right. Not if Yish Al Menasas. Let's say you pick it up for years, but with the intention of returning it. You took it before in order to return it. In other words, you picked it up properly. I picked it up in order to return it. And then after years, you decided to keep it. He said, I'll wait a little bit. And then he was miyayish. Again, how do you always know? Again, you don't always know. But if you know that it was miyayish, you heard him say, I give up. Then you come and say, over mishum, hashev teshivim, you're over for not returning it. In other words, lo suchal asalem, no, you're not over on that because you did pick it up with the right intention. You didn't pick it up to steal it. And when did you intend to steal it? After years, so it's not really Xela, but you didn't return it because now you stole it. Himpton, let's say you didn't do anything. Now, there's certain cases you're not supposed to do anything. Like we said yesterday, Suffolk Hinuch, let's say you found it in a place where somebody put it in their covey. So you're supposed to leave it there, right? But in a place where you're supposed to pick it up and try to return it, and you waited instead until the Baal was miyayish, and then you took it, because you did turn away. You pretended you didn't see it, and you should have picked it up. Bilvad, that's the only thing you're over. Amarava. So here you see the Yisurim that you're over, depending on when there's Yish. If you picked it up before Yish to steal it, you're over on everything. If you picked it up in order to return it, and then after a year you decided to keep it, so you didn't return it. You're over on Hashev Teshivim. You're not over on Lo Suchal Asam because you did pick it up properly. You didn't turn away from it, and you didn't really steal it because you kept it only after Yish. If you waited till after Yish and then you took it, you're only over for a Lo Suchal Asam because you should have picked it up to try to return it. Let's say you saw somebody drop a coin in a sandbox, or like on the beach. That would be a good example, right? And you picked it up and you took it. You don't have to return it to him. You know why? Because he was miyayish, right? You ever go to the beach and drop a coin? Forget about it. You're not going to get it back. My time, how would enough make the guy who dropped him? Miyayish gave up. Even if you see him bring a sieve and he's going to sift it, he starts bringing it up, become a ravel and he's sifting it. Listen, I probably won't find my coin, but I'll find somebody else's coin because everybody drops coins there, right? Pardon? Metal detector, right? If you see him with the devil, he's not getting his own. Even if you see him with a metal detector, you could still keep the coin that he dropped because he doesn't have intention of really getting his own. He figures just like it fell out of me, just like I dropped one. I'll find something. I'll find somebody else's coin. So therefore, you have to think about it in every case. So it's like when you're at the beach and you drop a coin, a smart person will give up right away. And you saw it and you're able to get it, you can keep it. So it all depends on when there's yish in terms of what you're over on. Let's say you find a coin or money in a store. Matzah b'chanos, says the Mishnah. How else you can keep it? Because they're probably one of the people who came in there dropped it. And again, money has no siman on it. Other than the place could be a simon, but as we said, and here, the previous case we talked about, you saw it was in a hotel room, there were 3 people there, 2 people there, you saw it drop from somebody. But here you find a coin in a store, you can keep it. Who are you going to give it to? Whoever dropped it was miyayish. Let's say you found it between the countertop and the shopkeeper, the makolet owner, then Shalchavani, he obviously dropped it. It's on his side of the counter. Lifnei Shulchani, same thing in front of a money changer, in front of the money changer's counter, or else you can keep it because it was one of his customers. Let's say it was between his chair and this countertop, then it belongs to the money changer. Let's say you buy fruits. Tomorrow we'll explain, we're talking about a wholesaler, or somebody sent you Paris and you found some money in the fruits. You don't know, people don't keep money there. You can keep it because you can assume that it didn't come from that owner. It came from, it's like a wholesaler or other people, from a wholesaler. So a wholesaler, it wasn't him. It was somebody who worked for him, the trucker or the sabalim, whatever. But if it was tied up together, then there's a siman. That's a siman. Either how much money was there, you counted it, or the siman is the bag or however it was counted up, the envelope, whatever is then then you have to, that's a siman, you have to call that out. The question is, what happens if you find the money on the countertop? So he says, even if you find it on the countertop, you can also keep it. Okay, how does that work? Mishnah says, we find it in front of the countertop, meaning on the customer side of the countertop, so you can keep it. If you find it on the countertop, the shulchani on the countertop of the money changer, it belongs to the shulchani, right? The sefer says, if you find it between the countertop of the shulchani and his chair, then shel shulchani belongs to him. So mashma on the countertop, then you could keep it. Like a mashma, you can't prove it from our Mishnah because our Mishnah depends how you read it. Do you look at it if it's on one side of the counter or the other side of the counter? Mashma the countertop, you can't tell. So how do Rav Blazer know that if you find it on the countertop, you can keep it? He did deal with the Mishnah itself. Why did he say between the shopkeeper's chair and his and the shulchani himself? Shulchani listening al gabi shulchan. Let us say if you find it on his countertop, that's where he does his business. Inami matzah b'shulchan. So you find it on the countertop. Tani reisha matzah b'chanut. Find it in the store. So find sign on the money changer store is his countertop. In other words, he's trying the fact that he didn't say matzah ala shulchanot like he said by the chanut, or the fact that he emphasized that only between the shopkeeper's chair and the countertop does it belong to the money changer. Mashma that if you find it on the countertop, that's how he was medayik. Even though you could see from the Mishnah, you could medayik either way. That's how he was medayik. That if you find it on the countertop, it belongs to you, meaning one of his customers dropped it. Usually the money changers don't drop their money. It was lost, meaning it was just like, hanging on the sides there, whatever. You know what I mean? Nobody claimed it. Obviously, in other words, there's no customer there now. The shulchani is just sitting there, and he didn't take it. Usually, the money changers know how to keep their money careful. They don't leave it hanging around. If you buy Paris from somebody else, right? So Amr Shlaka, she says, right, and you find money there, you can keep it. Something back from a wholesaler, because a wholesaler, he bought it from other people. There's many people involved in the process, right? One transferred the other, and there's no simon here. It's money. You can keep it then. So you bought it from an individual, you got to give it back to him because the money must have come from him. Only if you buy it from a wholesaler can you keep it, because there were many hands here involved. If you bought it from one person, from one farmer, whatever, and you found some money there, must be his. What do you mean? Why do you think it's the Balabayas himself who threshed it, the grain, whatever it was? We say payers, but you mean grains, etc. I mean, he has other people, he has workers there too. How do you know it came from the Balabayas? There were other hands who touched it there too. Well, should I cross out? Should I delete that phrase and say it doesn't make any difference who I bought it from? Even if I bought it from a Balabayas also, maybe I could keep it. Don't. There it's speaking about where he used his own slaves. If his own slaves, whatever they own is his. So if you bought it from a farmer who used his own slaves to do the threshing and you found money there, it obviously belongs to the farmer, then you have to give it back to him. But if you bought it from a wholesaler where many hands touched it, again, you don't know. Whoever dropped the money obviously gave up, and you can keep the money there now. All right, we'll pick up the mission tomorrow. Chag Purim Sameach l'kulam.